Hey everybody, it's Gomedex and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we have the release of Innistrad Midnight Hunt, the new Innistrad set. Innistrad, always a gothic horror themed set with a lot of really cool artwork, flavor, and just thematic cards. So I'm very excited to get into this set. There's a lot of graveyard synergies going on. Cards with Flashback are instants and sorceries where you can recast from your grave. Cards with Disturb are creatures you can recast from your grave. You've got werewolves flipping when it becomes night. You've got a lot of creepy crawlies and things like that, but I'm excited to see how the limited format plays out. So let's just hop into my very first sealed event of the format. And I do recommend when you're brand new to a format, if sealed events are on at the time, sealed is the best way to start because you have as much time as you want to look through your sealed pool, read all your cards, get familiar with what's going on there, whereas draft is often a timed format for your deck building. So we can check out our sweet rares here and then do some deck building. So Grafted Identity seems like an incredible blue spell. 4 mana for an enchantment aura. You have to sacrifice a creature when you cast it, but you get to gain control of any creature on the board and give it +1/+1. Very, very powerful effect. Basically a removal spell and a bomb all in one, since you are removing your opponent's bomb and gaining it for yourself. So Grafted Identity, pretty great. There's a lot of expendable creatures in the set, a lot of sacrificing going on. There are cards that are 2/2 zombie tokens with Decayed. Decayed is an ability that means it can't attack. Well, it means it can't block, and after it attacks, you have to sacrifice it. So these decayed zombies are like really good sacrificial fodder you can get often in blue decks. So Grafted Identity looks like a sweet rare there. Champion of the Perished, solid card if you go zombie tribal. Pretty self-explanatory there. Curse of Shaken Faith. This is definitely a constructed plant, I think. 2 mana enchant a player. Whenever they cast a spell other than the first one, they get dealt 2 damage. So this is kind of a constructed only card, not going to be good in limited. Tovalar's Huntmaster, however, going to be incredibly bonkers in limited. 6 mana for a 6/6 and 2 2/2s is the worst this card can do. And this is the first card we've seen showing off the new day-bound, night-bound mechanic. What that means is any card that's day-bound means if you play it before it's day or night, it'll just become day, so you have that indicator, and when no one casts a spell during their own turn, it'll become night, and if somebody chooses to cast 2 spells during their own turn, it'll become day again. So flavorfully, the idea is that during the daytime, once everybody settles down and stops doing everything, the hustle and bustle's all going to bed, no spells are getting cast, then it'll become night next turn and everybody's asleep. And then once somebody's casting a bunch of spells in one turn, casting 2 spells in one turn, the hustle bustle's back and about and everybody's waking up and it'll head back into day. But the day-night bound mechanic, a really interesting way to do these flip cards because it makes it so if you've had some werewolves out earlier, maybe you cast a werewolf on like turn 4 or something, and it's become nighttime by the time you cast the Huntmaster. The Huntmaster will just straight up come into play as the pack leader. Like if it's already nighttime when you cast this spell, it'll come in as the nightbound version of the card. So really, really interesting mechanic. Very, very powerful card here to show off the mechanic. Again, the front half of the card already insane, but if you do manage to get to nighttime, it's absolutely absurd, giving you more wolves as it attacks, letting your wolves fight creatures you don't control. Bonkers rare, probably the strongest rare we have here. We also have Burn Down the House. This is a Wrath effect, dealing 5 to each creature and Planeswalker. That'll be the strongest ability the vast majority of the time, but if we're in a winning position where we do not want to kill everything, this gives us the flexibility of being able to get 3 1/1 red devils with haste to get in there, and those devils are pretty good, dealing a damage to any target when they die. So Burn Down the House seems like an excellent card, and Angel Fire Ignition seems like a pretty excellent card for very aggressive decks, just putting fuel right onto the fire, getting turbocharged in there with your creatures, putting 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature, giving it Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, Indestructible, and Haste until end of turn. And of course, Flashback, letting you recast it from the graveyard one time, meaning you're going to be doing this twice. Really big pump spell there, so some real fancy rares. The one I would be most excited to play with would be our green rare here if we have the green support to go with it. So we'll take a quick peek through our other colors, not going to give a full lowdown on every card here, just going to hover over it so you can pause and read it if you want, but just making a quick assessment in my head of how good the other colors look in general. as we move on. So far, our white looks very mediocre. There are not a lot of white cards, and the best ones that we have just look decent. Nothing really standing out in white. Yeah, white looks almost completely unplayable here. We have 9 white cards total, some of which are borderline unplayable, most of which are just mediocre. It looks like we have a lot of blue, though. So we have decent draw spell. Delver of Secret's definitely much stronger and constructed than limited. Larder Zombie definitely likely to be way too slow, but sealed does tend to be a little slower than draft, so it could work out. Cute little self-mill card here. The blue removal spell and the Locked in the Cemetery there. Some Day-Night Tribal, couple good counterspells. 2 Dissipates, a counterspell that exiles something, is relevant in this format with flashback cards and disturb cards. If somebody casts their Covetous Castaway and you exile it when you counter it, then they never get to recast it with the disturb cost. Same works for flashback. You exile it the first time they cast it and they never get to flash it back. So double Dissipate is kind of interesting for the blue here. Falcon Abomination, pretty good. 3 mana, 2/2 flyer with that sacrificial fodder of that decayed zombie. Of course, we have the Grafted Identity in blue. We have 2 of the Falcon Abominations. I'm a little interested in blue here. Like, blue-green could end up good, because I think these Falcon Abominations are like the perfect curve filler to go with our Grafted Identities, just being a good flying creature that gives us those decayed zombie tokens to sacrifice for the Grafted Identity. So I am liking the look of our blue in general. Revenge the Drowned seems solid. Make somebody put something on top or bottom, then get a sacrificial fodder token. Little flash flyer. A big old disturbing flyer. The Phantom Carriage. Yeah, some decent blue stuff there for sure. So I will be looking into that. So Zombie Tribal in black. Another Zombie Tribal card here, the Crawl from the Cellar. Eaten Alive just being a good removal spell. Fine little sacrifice outlet. Well, we have some zombies to go with the Zombie Tribal. We have some decent removal spells. Black looks pretty okay. Nothing massively powerful in black, but some good removal, some filler creatures. Red, we've got a decent removal spell in Immolation. Little combat trick, unplayable constructed card. We have a devil wearing a pumpkin in its horns. I want to play red so bad for that alone, but in terms of the general power level of the red stuff, it looks pretty okay. Pretty okay. Well, Brimstone Vandal could be pretty decent if we're flipping between day and night a lot, so if we have a lot of werewolves in green, if we go green-red there. We do have a couple werewolves in red. Of course, we do have the big bomb of Burn Down the House in red. Great removal and Burn the Accursed. Some Werewolf Tribal with the Village Reavers and Village Watch there. Red looking pretty decent. And here's the big part I really want. I really want our green to look decent, so we have good support for the strongest card in our sealed pool, Tovolar's Huntmaster here, but we'll see. Duel for Dominance, some fight spell removal. We've got a wolf for the Wolf Tribal. And an average little self-mill card, a werewolf combat trick, a mana fixing card, a spider with reach. Unfortunately, ooh, Shadow Beast Sighting actually looks insane. 4 mana for a 4/4, and then you get to flash it back for 7. That seems like a great common. Maybe I'm overestimating it. Maybe there's a lot of bounce spells to make it less worth it. Yeah, our green does not look awesome just because there's not a lot of green cards, but our best green cards are so good, like Tovolar's Huntmaster. And then looking at our multicolored cards here, we do have double Kessig Naturalist, which is a Werewolf Lord. 2 mana for a 2/2. Whenever it attacks, you get a red or green mana. And then when you flip it, all of your wolves and werewolves get +1/+1. So it is the Werewolf Tribal Leader. We have 2 of those. All right, I think I'm planting my foot in the ground here. I'm going to try really hard to see if we just have just enough support for just green-red Werewolf Tribal to be our game plan here. I am very hopeful for it. Our red-white gold cards are pretty good, but our white is just not. Our green-blue gold cards are pretty good too. If our green-red doesn't work out, green-blue would be interesting, but I would think that the biggest reason green-red might not work out would be green's fault, just because of the low number of green cards in general. So like if green-red isn't going to work out, I doubt green-blue would. Simply because we just don't have a lot of green cards. I think green would be the problem in that color pair. So this is 42 cards right here. We get to cut 2 more cards, and this would be the deck. So I'm probably going to build this deck like fully, save it, and then take a look at how good green-blue looks, because I think blue has a pretty equally powerful rare as red does here. Red has Burn Down the House, and blue has Grafted Identity. Both of those seem great. Maybe Raise the Effigy can get cut here. I don't think we're that aggressive. We do have 16 creatures. Kind of like the random draw spell here. But I definitely like Howl of the Hunt is a better combat trick because it's got the Wolf Werewolf Tribal, and even without it, it's a permanent trick or a permanent buff after you get the combat trick. Kind of a lot of mana to do it, but still. I guess with Path to the Festival here, we could even try splashing one of the colors. Like splash red for the naturalists or splash blue for the grafted identities, but splashing for a card that requires 2 mana of its color is a little difficult. Splashing for a double blue card like grafted identity would be hard. So I don't know if we're doing the splash. I'd probably cut Path to the Festival here if we're not splashing. Sure, it like curves into our 5 or 6 drop, but most of our deck is like curving out 2 and 3 mana creatures, getting things off the ground running. I mean, Thermo Alchemist doesn't seem great in here either. Definitely some other options to make with this deck. How good do our colorless cards look? 4 mana 3/4s that exile something when they come to play? That's not bad at all. It's not terrible. Fine filler. So if we want to upgrade like our Alchemist into one of those, I guess we could do that. Which, I think all in all, it might be an upgrade for this deck. Even Festival Crasher doesn't look great in here. Yeah, I definitely don't like the Raise the Effigy. I'll throw in a Candle Guide over the Alchemist, but I'll keep the Festival Crasher just because it's got a pumpkin in its horns. Come on. How can you not play the Festival Crasher? Even if we are low on instants and sorceries, we've got what? 5? Yeah, 5 total. Alright, well this would be the Werewolf Tribal. Oh, the deck name's too long. Sad. This would be the red-green Werewolf Tribal deck that we could try to do in green-red. Looks pretty solid. We definitely have powerhouse rares, Tovolar's Huntmaster and Burn Down the House. But other than that, nice little curve of creatures, a little bit of removal. Certainly looks pretty solid to me. Let's take a look at the green-blue deck we could do. If we have a lot of flashback in green-blue, it could be like really exciting. Because those are what our green-blue multicolored cards are best at. Specifically the Root Coil Creeper. This is a mana fixer, but it like double mana fixes for flashback spells, or just any spells in your graveyard. And it can return a flashback card from exile to your hand, which is very cool. So we could do like green-blue with a little black splash, using the Path to the Festival to get there. So that we can use like Diregraph Rebirth as just a random splashed-in flashback card that can be a big impact late game, especially when we have an incredibly powerful creature in our deck, like the Tovolar's Huntmaster, to reanimate if it ever dies. I like that idea. Essentially going green-blue-black. Green-blue with a black splash, I should say. And then that gives us access to our good black removal as well. And then we have a lot of self-mill going on for flashback cards, disturb cards, stuff like that, so even Covetous Castaway seems fine here. Yeah. This is an interesting, little annoying day-night tribal card. Tap things and untap things between every turn where it flips over. Flip the switch. Counterspell and get a 2/2 Decayed Zombie. Interesting. It's like a better Convolute, but I really don't like Convolute. We already have 2 Dissipates. I don't know if I want 4 counterspells in this deck. I very likely do not. So what would the black splash be for? Just Diregraph Rebirth and Grizzly Ghoul here. Grizzly Ghoul being fine on rate, 4 mana for 4/3 trample, and potentially a lot better. 4 mana for 5/4 trample is awesome, and anything past that is incredible. Probably throw an Eaten Alive, and that's about the only other card I'd want to splash in out of black. Maybe Defenestrate, but Eaten Alive can kill any creature, including flyers. So, definitely Eaten Alive first. Maybe Defenestrate as well, in addition to Eaten Alive, but not Eaten Alive over Defenestrate or anything. So we need to cut 4 cards out of here for the green, blue, splash, black. What does our colors look like? 14 blue cards, 13 green, 3 black. So very even on colors, and then black is just the splash. Oops, I do not want to cut Eaten Alive. Where'd it go? There it is. Just wanted to move it into the 5 mana pile. But I suppose a lot of the times we'll be sacrificing a Decayed Zombie token to the Eaten Alive to cast it for cheap. I really like Consider in this deck because we have a lot of Flashback and Disturb that we're trying to get going, where milling one of those cards and drawing a card can be just a big upswing in value. Don't love Duel for Dominance in here because we have Locked in the Cemetery, we have Eaten Alive, we have Double Dissipate, Revenge the Drowned, Grafted Identity. We have a lot of removal going on, and Duel for Dominance isn't always going to be able to kill what we want because sometimes we're just not going to have big enough creatures on the board. We'll just have a 2/4 or something and we want to kill a 6/6. So I think Duel for Dominance is probably the weakest removal spell out of what's in our deck. So that's an option to cut. I don't love the Howl of the Hunt anymore. We're less looking to get in a little bit of value from casting combat tricks at opportune moments, and now we're just going for big late game value by having tons of cards that can recur themselves multiple times, with flashback cards, with Root Coil Creeper getting flashback cards back, with maybe some self-mill letting us draw cards by drawing flashback cards. So I think we're going for just more attrition wars than quick upswings in value from combat tricks, quick trade-ups and stuff like that. Cards like Diregraph Rebirth are now some of the core of the deck. So we need to cut 3 more cards now. We have 14 creatures. We could go for a pretty low creature count here, because I do think our non-creatures are quite good, but definitely makes our fight spells worse the less creatures we have. So I kind of want to cut the fight spell on 2 creatures here. Would be my idea, my consideration here. So I do really like the rest of our instants and sorceries here, and I guess this is a creature. It's a 4 mana 4/4 Shadow Beast sighting. So it is kind of 15 creatures right now, but cutting 2 more, we're going down to 13 creatures. It's pretty good to me. We're not going to be doing day and night too much. Yeah, we're not like a werewolf deck anymore, so we're not really playing around with that stuff that much. So I don't love the Collector. It is still a 1/4 that can be annoying, which is interesting. Definitely like the self-mill of the Eccentric Farmer and the Covetous Castaway. Love the Dawnheart Rejuvenator here. A 2/4, just a large blocker on curve that gains some life when you play it, plus mana fixes us later. Love the Broodweaver. Couple big flyers to close things out. The Stormrider Spirit and the Phantom Carriage. And then, of course, the massive bomb, Tovolar's Huntmaster. Oh, I feel like this Candle Guide's going to play pretty alright. Because when it's just a 4-mana 3/4, that's really not the end of the world. And anytime our opponent does have a flashback card, it's going to be pretty solid. It's really easy to cast being completely colorless. That being said, I'm giving it all of the big props right now because I think it's going to be the cut here. So, sorry. I am more prone to playing this just because of how cool the artwork is. I love everything that has pumpkins in it in this set. All of the Halloween-y artwork I'm a huge fan of, but I think I got to get the Crossroads Candle Guide out of here. It's seeming like the most mediocre creature in the deck, except for maybe like Bounding Wolf. But Bounding Wolf is like cheaper. So it helps cards like our Winterhorn Blessing be better. Winterhorn Blessing definitely being at its best when you're curving out with it well. Getting some aggressive attacks in. So we want a lot of cheap creatures working with that. I'm going to cut the Candle Guide out. Maybe we're supposed to cut the Winterhorn Blessing out just because we would ideally have like 5 2-mana creatures or something and just be a curve out aggro deck for Winterhorn Blessing to be awesome. And we definitely don't have that. We just don't have a lot of cheap creatures in green or blue. We're playing every green card that we have. And in blue, the only other cheap creatures we have is like Delver of Secrets, which is just not really limited playable. We have 9 instants and sorceries, but it's a 1 out of 4. So 75% of our turns, our Delver just sits there as a 1/1. But a quarter of our turns, it might turn into a 3/2 permanently. I feel like that's just too slow. I don't know. I mean, 9 instants and sorceries is starting to get there a little bit. Still don't think it's worth a Delver, though. Well, I think I like this deck better than the Green-Red Werewolves deck that we had. The Green-Red Werewolves deck was just like really all-in, trying to curve out decently with some solid werewolves and stuff, but this one is a lot more like value over time, late-game attrition. There's more interaction in this deck as well, I think, in general. Double Dissipate, Locked in the Cemetery, and Eaten Alive as removal spells, Grafted Identity to steal their best card. There's a lot of stuff I quite like with this deck going for it. And, yeah, I think I'm gonna run with this one. And we'll go with the name of a game I've been playing a lot recently. That would make sense for this deck. Go for Returnal, because we're just doing a lot of graveyard synergies here out of the grave. A lot of reanimating stuff. And Returnal, the video game, does feel like a war of attrition at times. So we need some islands and swamps in here. We need... What is Innistrad Midnight Hunt's set code? I don't know. Well, we're just going to have to look through all the lands till we hit them. There will be links in the description to get to the gameplay immediately and not watch me dirtle around with the lands here. I think we just need 1 swamp in this deck, to be honest. We have Path to the Festival in here, we have Evolving Wilds in here, and we have Dawnheart Rejuvenator. Maybe 2 swamps. Maybe 2 swamps, but I think we only need 1 or 2. Yeah, we have 3 black spells. We have Rebirth, Grizzly Ghoul, and Eaten Alive. Maybe 2 swamps is good. And I don't have any spells that require 2 green mana until turn 6, but I have 2 blue spells that cost double blue on turn 3. I have a spell that costs double blue on turn 4. So I think I cut 1 forest before I cut 1 island. So this would be the 1 swamp version. And if we want 2 swamps, then we just go 7 forests, 7 islands, 2 swamps. I think I would rather think I'd rather roll with this version. Because we actually do still have 4 black sources, because we have Swamp, Evolving Wilds, Dawnheart Rejuvenator, and Root Coil Creeper that I forgot about. That also gives us black mana. Yeah. Alright. So here we are with my first ever Innistrad Midnight Hunt sealed deck. Very excited to hop into this format, see what all the cards are, get a good grasp on them before I hop fully feet first into the drafts. I am very excited for this set. Alright. The mana doesn't look great here, but we have Evolving Wilds and Path to the Festival to fix that right away. So we're going to crack this Evolving Wilds for a blue source to hit double blue for Dissipate as soon as possible. And if we draw another island here, then we can use Path to the Festival for our black source, but if we don't, we're probably just going to Path to the Festival for a blue source turn 3, and then hope to use cards like our Rejuvenator for our black source for Eaten Alive later in the game. So our opponent is on white and blue. White and blue have a lot of flashback and disturb stuff going on. Primarily disturb, a lot of creatures in the color pair. We do hit the blue source, so we can go for a Path to the Festival here for our black mana. And that is what I'll do. Unfortunately, this card is a sorcery speed card, so we cannot use it at instant speed if... or so that we can hold up Dissipate. As cool as that would be, it's better to just get the mana immediately. So Falcon Abomination is the play for the turn, a 2/2 flyer that comes with that Decayed Zombie. It's going to shoot us for 2 damage or get sacrificed to something. Got 5 mana now. We have pretty great blockers on the ground if we just play a 2/4 here. Have great blockers and a decent attacker if we play a 4/4 instead. I think we play a 4/4 here. I don't need any mana from the Rejuvenator or anything. Their color pair makes tokens probably a little bit weak against them. They could have some bounce spells in blue to throw that back into our hand, which of course a bounce spell against a creature token will permanently kill it. So what's their unruly mob here? Whenever another creature they control dies, they put a +1/+1 counter on it. So a 1/1 that can slowly get bigger over time. Definitely a decent combo again with those decayed zombies, because those zombies are definitely going to die at some point. Either when they attack or when they choose to sacrifice them to some other effect. There's the decayed text there. Very, very hurtful ability. Very big downside. Making those decayed tokens just perfect sacrificial fodder over anything else. So a couple Candle Grove Witches. They get flying as long as they have 3 creatures with different powers. They have 1 power creatures and 2 power creatures, so they don't have Coven yet. So these are just 2/2s on the ground still. Could send in the attack with the 4/4. I'm a little scared of a crackback, but if they try to get a big block off, I could Revenge of the Drowned and get them pretty well. That would be big. I could cast Dawnheart Rejuvenator and just have another blocker here, but then I don't hold up any interaction. I'm going to hold up some interaction here. I can either Dissipate a spell if they cast something good, or I can Revenge of the Drowned one of their creatures. Going for the coward play here. I mean, it would have been pretty decent to get Rejuvenator on board. Like, what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is they play like a 3 or 4 power creature, so their Candle Grove Witches get flying, and then we're just taking 6 damage. If we gained 3 life off of Rejuvenator coming to play, that wouldn't be that bad, because we'd be at 20 life, then we'd take 6 down to 14. Gavney's Silversmith is a beating. A 2/3, and they put a +1/+1 counter on up to 2 target creatures, so we're just going to counter that. We're not going to deal with that at all. That card is an absolute beating here. They play that, they get a counter on both their Candle Grove Witches, and they're attacking in with, 8 power in this guy now? Yeah, that would have been disastrous. So it actually did pan out pretty well that we held on to Dissipate there. Now play my own Falcon Abomination to be able to block one of their flyers, and I can also lock in the cemetery here. Keep one of their creatures tapped down if I want. Or I could Eaten Alive, sacrifice the zombie token to exile one of their cards. But all their stuff's just 2/2s right now, so I think I'd rather Locked in the Cemetery and save Eaten Alive for something better. There's that Innistrad music kicking in. I was very excited to hear what it was. I feel like it's been so quiet generally, it is really cool when it kicks in. You see now it's going right back into the background all quietly there. So we're going to shut down the Falcon Abomination, and then if they play any better creatures, we're going to Eat it alive, because if they play a better creature, it's probably going to have more power toughness to trigger Coven and give these things flying. So it'll be important to get it permanently off the board instead of leave it on the board tapped. Ooh, they are sending the stuff in because we no longer have a good blocker. Well, I'll just take it all. I don't want to trade our flyer down, although trading it down into a Candle Grove Witch wouldn't be the end of the world, because those are likely to get flying later in the game. But we have a Rejuvenator here to gain life and block them well. So I feel pretty safe casting that here. And not going for any trades. Ambitious Farmhand's a 1-power creature, so they're back to having 2 different powers on their board. They need another one to reach Coven, but when they do, they can transform this into a 3/3 lifelinker. But since the Unruly Mob became a 2/2, they don't have Coven yet. Now they do with Celestial Sanctifier. Whenever it becomes night or night becomes day, look at the top 2 cards of the library, put one into your hand. Or no, put one into the graveyard. So kind of like a Scry 2 sort of effect there. Alright, well, giving the witches flying here is pretty bad. We're going to eat the Sanctifier alive to keep them off of Coven. I guess I could eat the Farmhand alive instead, because that will turn into a 3/3 lifelink later in the game, which is better than the Sanctifier. Ooh, and a Grafted Identity now to steal something? Okay. We really want to keep them off of Coven here. I guess we can cast Eaten Alive and hold up Revenge of the Drowned. That'll give us another zombie token because we'll have to sacrifice one to cast Eaten Alive, and then by getting another zombie token, we'll have that at the ready to sacrifice to Grafted Identity. So I kind of like Eaten Alive to kill the Sanctifier here. If I have one blocker, they attack with everybody. I block, I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't think I can attack here. But I like doing that, and then I have Revenge of the Drowned if something bad happens. And if nothing bad happens, I can still cast Revenge of the Drowned just to get that card on the board to sacrifice to our Grafted Identity. Kind of hoping they just play a big bomb creature now for Grafted Identity to steal. So they're going into combat, but they thought a lot. Okay, alright, so they've drawn some sort of interaction here, quite likely. We'll just go for our best onboard blocks. We can permanently kill Unruly Mob, we can kill one of the witches, because it's going to be a flyer later in the game, so the trade's fine. We should have taken that trade earlier. I wasn't thinking of the fact that this is not that hard to give flying. So we make these blocks take 5. Revenge of the Drowned if something happens here. Ritual of Hope. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. If you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, they get +2/+1 instead. So they get +1/+1 here. I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I mean that's just exactly lethal on board. So we bounce something with Revenge of the Drowned. I have to bounce something that I'm not blocking, so I have to let our Falcon Abomination die here, which just blows. So let it resolve. Now that it's resolved, we could bounce the Witch, I guess. We could bounce the Zombie, but it's going to die after combat anyway. This Unruly Mob would get bigger if I bounce it right now. It would be a 4/4 and it would kill the Rejuvenator, so we shouldn't bounce the Zombie. Could bounce our own Abomination, but we don't want to do that. Because we don't want to recast it next turn. We don't want to skip our draw step, anything like that. Let's just hit the Candle Grove Witch here. Choose to put it on bottom of their library. Their Decayed token dies. They now have Coven again for the Ambitious Farmhand. If they flip it here, I'd be happy to steal it with Grafted Identity, although I could steal Unruly Mob instead. Yeah, it is a hard choice between those two, isn't it? Mob is a 3/3, but it's likely to get bigger, whereas Cathar is a 3/3 with lifelink, so it's just like better right now. I'm gonna go for the immediate value and just get the lifelinker here. I don't know if it's super right, but yeah, it's going to be a 4/4 lifelink because Grafted Identity gives +1/+1. It's going to be tapped, but so would the Unruly Mob if I take that instead. Alright, if they have a combat trick, I'm dead because I only have one blocker either way if I had held up Rejuvenator or if I cast Castaway here. So I cast Castaway so I can chump block and get some self-mill going. Because I do like self-milling here. But either way, whether or not I chose to cast Castaway here, I'm dead to a removal spell or a pump spell. So we're hoping they don't draw into either of those things. But yeah, either line I take, whether I hold Rejuvenator up or I cast Castaway, we just block Unruly Mob and take 2 from Candle Grove Witch. So we just have no other choice either way. But this way I get potentially a 3/4 to come back and a little bit of self-mill. Yeah, 3/4 flyer too. Attack with Seasoned Cathar, hope they don't kill it here so I can gain 4 life. But I could also hold it back for blocks. I do really like gaining the life right now. So you can't just draw a removal spell and then kill it before blocks and I don't gain life. Yeah, we'll do that and get our Castigator out. Alright, exile the Castigator. Sad. Sad day, but we still gained the 4 life off the Cathar, so we're at 5 life now, so we definitely survive a crack back. Devoted Graphkeeper. Whenever they cast a spell from their grave, tap a creature they don't control. They don't have anything in their grave they can cast right now. This will come back as a 3/1 flyer that can only block other flyers. Interesting. Well, they don't have Coven here. And if they attack both, I get to kill Candlegrove Witch. They might not even attack here. Okay, they do attack. This means Unruly Mob's going to turn into a 4/4, and we take 3 damage right now, but that's fine by me. Because we get their board whittled down, and now they only have 1 creature to block our lifelinker, so we just hit them, or they recast it as a 3/1 flyer. That's fine, especially since we drew Witherhorn Blessing. We can keep tapping it down. I guess we could just tap it down right now and get more life gain going. Yeah, seems pretty good. Let's tap it down right now. Get a counter there and tap down one of our opponent's creatures. Now we gain 5 off this attack. Gain 5, go to 7 life, take 4. Yeah, let's race as well as we can here, and then we play another blocker. Throw a land back into our hand. I guess just another green source here. We are flipping between day and night just for fun, I guess. Nobody has day-bound or night-bound cards here. No werewolves on the board. But the day-night cycle did start when our opponent cast the card I exiled. Their Celestius Sanctifier. So we'll see what our opponent has drawn here. I think I just block here because I just have lethal on the crackback. So I just need to not die to like a +3/+3 pump spell there. Ooh, that's disgusting. Alright, well, fantastic draw from our opponent, Brutal Cathar. Exiles one of our cards until that leaves the battlefield, and when it leaves the battlefield, it just goes back to their field. They just get their farmhand back, so we don't want to kill the Brutal Cathar. That was an incredible draw for our opponent. 4, 5, 6, 7. Hit them for 3. I could recast a 4/4. If they get this Nightbound, it's going to be a first striking 3/3, which is fine if we have a 4/4 out. Yeah, I think I play a 4/4 here. And pass. Yeah, that turned things around pretty poorly for us. Brutal Cathar is certainly a brutal card against us here. Definitely makes the chump block look pretty bad in hindsight. Although I suppose if we hadn't taken the chump block, we would be at 3 life here, which would mean we'd never be able to target this if it flipped over to the ward side. Either way, we're in a world of hurt. Being at 3 life and still having a 2/3 out, or being at the 7 without our 2/3. So we might be able to set up a decent attack at some point with our Grizzly Ghoul to come in with a bunch of counters. If we get them to like trade 2 creatures into our 1, that would be the magical Christmas land dream there. $14 cards left in our library. Still much more worried about dying to combat damage than milling ourselves out with all our playing around here. If I cast 2 spells, we will flip it back to day so that we don't have to worry about the Brute. I kind of like Winterhorn Blessing to shut off the Unruly Mob as a blocker, and then we're attacking with a 5/5. They have to double block to kill it. Like, they would get back their... they'd get back their farmhand, because the 3/3 would die, and then they'd also have a 3/1 flyer in their grave. So those things are a little scary, but... Then we get to cast a really big Grizzly Ghoul, and they're at 7 life, so a big Grizzly Ghoul is like super big. And mob wouldn't untap in their next turn. I don't know if this is like great, but it feels good to me. I feel like they go for the double block here. Because they go for the double block, they get their 1/1 back on board, draw planes out of the deck, and then they have a 3/1 flyer to recast from their graveyard. So it seems like a pretty good deal for them to take here. But then I'm going to cast a Grizzly Ghoul, and I'll be living the dream. Because they'll have a Grizzly Ghoul against a 1/1 on their board. Oh, I guess it'll be a 3/3 lifelinker. But it will be forced into a chump block. Because this Grizzly Ghoul is going to be massive. Alright, so Unruly Mob is going to stay tapped. That's all good. And here's the Grizzly Ghoul. It's going to be 7 power, so they have to block it or die. And then we can cast Consider during their turn just at instant speed. Okay, cool. So they have their 3/3 lifelinker. If they haven't drawn gas here, they just cast a 3/1 flyer that can only block flyers. And then we get to attack with Grizzly Ghoul. The Cathar is forced to block. Or they go to 0. So there's the land that we knew about from the Cathar. Departed Soulkeeper coming on out. Alright, passing turn. Here's our Consider. 13 cards in library. We'll mill anything that sucks. Phantom Carriage does not suck. That's a 4/4 flyer, big enough to block their flyer and survive. Yep, seems great. I will draw that. We draw for turn. Stormrider Spirit, a flash 3/3 flyer. I think Carriage is better than that here. We attack with just Grizzly Ghoul, because if I attack with both, they can block the 2/4 with their 3/3 lifelinker and survive because they'll gain 3 and take 7. So they'll be at 3 life, and then they just kill me on the crackback. So we attack with exclusively Grizzly Ghoul here. We get ready to chump block on Unruly Mob with our 2/4. And then we have a 4/4 flyer to block their Soulkeeper with, and then we crack back at them with Grizzly Ghoul again next turn. That is the plan. Well, pretty great draw from our opponent here. Now they can do the double block and kill, and the Unruly Mob turns into a super, super big attacker. Well, that is pretty bad. So Phantom Carriage. Phantom Carriage, we've got the flying creature under control, but now we have to keep blocking this Unruly Mob. Do I have any removal left in my deck? I don't know. Untapped.gg is not working. I will search my library. We have Diagraph Rebirth, which is pretty good. Of course, have the Huntmaster. That's it. No removal. A lot of lands here. What's our best cards to Rebirth? Just a bunch of small creatures in our grave. I think we still put it in the grave. We have the mana to cast it. Well, this Unruly Mob has certainly taken over the game here over time. We can't not block that, and we can't kill it, so block with the worst creature we have. Land from our opponent. hit for 4 in the sky here. We hit him 3 times and we'll win. We need to get a chump blocker. Do we have any creatures that spawn a token when we play them? We have ones that make decayed tokens, but they can't block, so that doesn't count. 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8 mana potentially here. That's not enough to do more than one thing, so we just attack Stormrider Spirit to chump block Unruly Mob. Or I guess we could just do it straight up. Do a straight up block with our Diagraph Rebirth. Gain a couple life if we bring the 2/4 back. We go to 10 life, so if they just attack with Unruly Mob, we can survive a hit. And we could crack back for lethal if they don't have a Soul Keeper out. 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, like Rejuvenator's kind of good for gaining life when it comes into play. I don't want to slam down Stormrider Spirit, because Stormrider Spirit could do like the surprise lethal later in this game, potentially. I feel like I want to just go for the straight up gain life play. And yeah, now if they don't draw anything here, they can attack with Unruly Mob. We can not block, and then like Soul Keeper can't even block Rejuvenator, so it's just there to chump block the carriage. If they attack all out, we have to chump here. All right. So we're down to 7. A life linker, and it comes back as a flyer. Ooh, but Huntmaster. Huntmaster's exceptional. A couple 2/2s to block things. What does this do? So a 2/3 life linker, cards and graveyards can't be the targets of spells or abilities. Then it comes back as a 3/2 flyer. Whenever one of our creatures are put into graveyards from anywhere, they investigate, and a bunch of stuff. Okay. Just a bunch of nonsense. So just play a Huntmaster here. And now we have ground blockers. And then we put them down to 1 life here in the sky. Oh my god, it's nighttime right now too? They have 1 card in hand, so they can't possibly flip it back to day. Which means that we get to use the fight abilities. With just 2/2s, but we could still do it to clear out their 3/1 flyer. Well, Triskaidekaphile did let them draw cards here, so they can cast another spell and make it daytime. How does this work? It becomes day next turn. I wonder if I can respond to that after untap. I'm guessing not, because next turn starts before I untap my cards. So it'll be daytime, and this will not have the activated ability by the time my land's untap, so I can't use my fight ability. I'm guessing that's how it'll work, but I'm going to put the stop here anyway, just in case I still have the ability to fight before it becomes day. I don't think I do, though. So attack with the lifelinker. If it dies, they cast it again from the graveyard as a flyer to block things. Can't really let that happen, so I just block here. Like, the plan is we block here, and now all we have to do is have our werewolf fight their Soul Keeper. and we kill their only flyer, they're going to be at 3 life. 3 life against 4 flying damage. We'll get there. If they cast another spell here, it's not going to work out because it'll become daytime and we can't use our fight ability anymore. Alright, just draw another card with Shiska file, so it's still nighttime. Which means, yeah, fight the flyer away. They have no blockers for the Phantom Carriage. Tovalar's Pack Leader closing out the game for us. What an excellent draw. Very swingy game there between the two of us. Definitely going to put some more respect on the Unruly Mob in the future. That card got massive, and I did remove some creatures earlier in the game when I could have chosen to remove the Unruly Mob and just picked some other stuff. So in the future, I'm going to treat that as a more high priority target after that game, because that mob was crushing us. They were angry. That is going to be our first game of Innistrad Midnight Hunt sealed. So let's head into the next one. 1-0. Good start to the format. So as we wait between rounds here, I'll do my due diligence as a YouTuber, Twitch streamer, all that nonsense, and let you all know that if you are watching this video on release day or in the first few days of release of the set, I will be live streaming every day in the afternoon, evening time. The launch of the Innistrad Midnight Hunt set. I'm doing a bunch of practice drafts on the Twitch channel in the description below to get a good grasp on the format before I do too many drafts on YouTube, because I want to give you all the best advice as possible, so we're doing all the trial by error drafts over there on the Twitch. But anyways, we have made it into our next round, so let's keep this hand and get things started here. I'm a little bit worried about our mana situation. We do need to hit a land here, but if we hit pretty much any one land, we're going to be fine, and we did. We hit our third land. It is a swamp, so we can't cast Dissipate, but we can cast our Feral Abomination turn 3 here. Should be quite nice. Jadar, Ghoul-Colored Nephalia, really tough, aggressive card to play against here, because every end step of theirs, if they do not control a 2-2 Zombie with Decayed, then they get a 2-2 Zombie with Decayed, so they can just keep slapping us with those Decayed Zombies. Luckily, a 1-3 holds that off pretty well, so it's not the scariest thing in the universe yet, but if they have any good cards to sacrifice those 2-2s, they can actually get some really good value with them. I think I'm going to go with the Feral Abomination here to start hitting them in the sky. I could go for the Farmer here because I do want to hit another blue source, so milling a few cards trying to hit a land could be decent. But I also like poking our opponent. So black-white do have a lot of sacrifice effects in this format. So if they hit any decent ones to go with Jadar, that's where Jadar's really going to go off, because even if those 2-2 zombies can't attack in well because they just get blocked by the 1-3, they can certainly get used for value with cards that let them sacrifice things every turn. So now I could play Eccentric Farmer, but I have all the lands I want right now. I could play Winterhorn Blessing, but we're not even going to get that aggressive with it. So I think I just hold up Dissipate and hang out with my opponent here. We're going to hang out with Mega Bob. See what's up. Just befriending Jadar over here. Alright, go for the attack, sure. They might have something that does like a better effect if one of their creatures died this turn. That would explain the attack here. I'm going to assume it's something like that. Nope, just a free attack because Jadar replaces the zombie anyway, so might as well try to make me think they have a combat trick or something like that. So this is just a 3-3 and a 1-1, so I don't feel a massive need to have countered that or anything. But I suppose that was an option. We do have the Diregraph Rebirth to bring back our flyer. The 3/3 is an issue, but everything else on their board is fine. I could Winterhorn Blessing just to slow them down here, which is weird, but I could do it. Yeah, I kind of just want to survive a while. So, let's just make the good defensive plays here. Slow down that 3/3, and now, more importantly, our 1/3 is a 2/4, so a 2/4 can block a 3/3 all day as well. So we have big enough blockers for all their stuff. Whoa! I'm not going to read that. That's too much. Whatever it is. Here's the text if you want to read it. It looks like a bunch of nonsense to me. Okay, yeah, I did actually read it. It is very absurd, very powerful. Big old flying lifelinker that can return cards from their grave to hand over and over. Seems pretty bonkers. Seems very important to stop if we can. Alright. The 3/3 is untapped now, but of course we have our 2/4 to block that. We could even double block with a 2/3 and a 2/4 if I want the 2/3 to trade up into it. Alright, it is coming in. It is not coming in. Mega Bob's debating a bit here. Morning Patrol. Wizards, you gotta stop with the puns here. Morning Patrol and then Morning Apparition. You gotta stop with the puns. Every now and then, it's just too much. So 3 mana, 2/3 Vigilance turns into a 2/1 Flying Vigilance later. Very good value. With both of those being slapped onto one card there. But we can just block a 2/3 with a 2/3 all day and never kill that. That's our plan for now. We do have our reanimation spell. We're just getting a 2/2 flyer here. But a flyer is good on this board, and this card flashes back whenever we have a bigger creature to get. So, because it'll flash back later in the game, just in the interest of doing stuff and still advancing our game state, our game plan in some way, we'll go ahead and Diregraph Rebirth the flyer so we can start chipping at them for 2 damage a turn. Blood Pact. They're going to draw 2 cards, lose 2 life. Solid draw spell there. Kind of an instant speed Sign in Blood if you've ever played with that card before. Very cool artwork on this as well. There's a 7/6 Menace. Alright. Big attacker there. We'll play an Evolving Wilds here so that I can dig a land out of our deck so we're less likely to draw another, but I am going to hold off that 7/6 Menace for a turn here. Keep that tapped. So I just don't want to deal with it right now. I would like to draw an Eaten Alive or something to deal with that massive threat. And that card works very well with Jadar because they got to just spend the 5 mana, sacrifice the 2/2 token when they played it, and then just get another one from Jadar. And there's another copy of Morkrut Behemoth. Very nice synergistic sealed pool from our opponent here. Jadar giving them those decayed zombies. Very good sacrificial fodder for cards like the Morkrut Behemoth, but even better if they do draw into any cards that can sacrifice creatures every turn instead of just for the one-time value. So they're doing some scary things now, but it could be worse. And while I am saying that, it could be worse, it's very bad right now. We do not have a board state that is nearly good enough to compete with these right now. We certainly need to draw into some powerhouse cards to get out of this one. So they have 7 power, so if I block with all 3 of our creatures, they can only kill 2 of them, and we'll kill one of the behemoths. That's kind of what we're stuck doing here, because if I don't make any blocks here, I'm just taking like 14, so we kind of have to go for the triple block here, and we're really hoping that they choose to kill the Covetous Castaway, but it's very likely they just kill the Farmer and the Abomination. If they do kill the Covetous Castaway, of course, we get to recast it from grave as a 3/4 flyer. That's why we would like them to kill that one. They do not do that. They make the smart play and kill our creatures that can't come back from the grave. They also cast a dual craft trainer here, first striker that can get double strike if they have creatures with 3 or more different powers, which they certainly do. They have a lot of creatures on the board. They have 1 power, 2 power, 3 power, and 7 power creatures. Well, another land for us. We can Diagraph Rebirth here, and we'll have 1 mana up after that. Wait, no, we'll have, let's see, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll have 3 mana up afterwards. Not enough to cast the Spirit. And the only thing we can bring back is a 2/2 or a 2/3. I think we just flash in a Stormrider Spirit, I guess. But I think we're just out of this one. Very nice deck from our opponent. The big old behemoths closing things out, but they do have the dual craft trainer as well. Oh, it's any creature? At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or target creature you control gains double strike. Oh no. I thought it was just that this would get double strike because this is like a first strike creature, and then Coven, it's a double strike creature. No, Coven is any creature on their board gets double strike. Oh my lord, so that's a 7/6 double strike menace. Well, only got 1 opportunity to not die here, which is to double block the menacing double striker, or else we take 14. At least we get to recast the Castaway here, but yeah, we're going really, really low here. No, oh wait, we have Diagraph Rebirth, alright. So we did mill our big bomb werewolf, but we can reanimate it. Will it be enough to survive here? I doubt it, but still the funnest thing we can do. So now I can double block their behemoth with 2 2/2s, and then I block one of their other creatures, and then I take, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, this does not save us. It is way too much damage, so unless we draw into some kind of crazy 2-mana card here. That is a 3-mana card. Get in the grave. Grizzly, cool. Nope, just going to be too much for us to compete with. A Loyal Gryff as well. They get to bounce one of their creatures back to hand if they want to recast it. Like if they want to recast Cathars and get another 1/1, something like that. Mediocre little equipment here. Shuts off the big creatures from blocking it. It's already not planning on blocking that with a big creature. Ooh, we were very dead on board here, so they do give us another turn, which is nice. So one final opportunity, I guess. If you only had one shot, one opportunity, what would you do? Would you cast a Ghostly Castigator and a Grizzly Ghoul? Because that's what I'm going to do. We can shovel some cards back. Definitely Grafted Identity. Get that back in the deck. Revenge of the Drowned, pretty good here. Eaten Alive, excellent here. So Eaten Alive, Grafted Identity are the best cards in our grave, but Revenge of the Drowned is also okay. So we'll shuffle all that back in. So we could maybe redraw them, and then we get to cast a Grizzly Ghoul as well here. This doesn't make any wolves when it attacks unless it's nighttime, so no reason to attack here, because it would just die and we don't get wolves, so pass turn. We're again dead on board if they just slam the all attack button, but they might not want to do it again, so we might get another turn. We shall see. have the Flyer Double Strike, so these will trade. Oh, and I just can't block the Behemoth because of its mask. Smart play from the opponent there then. Yeah, because I only have one blocker that can actually block here. These can't block that because of the mask, which means I can't block it because of the menace. I've only got one legal blocker. The zombies just can't block, period. So that will just be game there. Ooh, I really like that loading screen. Some very cool artwork. Innistrad has such just flavorful, unique horror artworks. Just creepy imagery in general. So our last opponent had just a really nice black-white, I would say black-white sacrifice deck there, but the only sacrifice they really had were the Morcrit Banshees. Just good black-white stuff in general. In sealed, you do tend to see a lot of decks like that. It's just like the best colors in the sealed pool together. So a little less synergistic. Jadar wasn't as scary as I thought Jadar would be because they didn't get that many synergies in their deck to go with it, but it did help get those Morcrit Banshees out earlier, those big 7/6 menaces. Those were brutal. Those definitely performed really well. And we have a draw in our third round. Well, it is the exact moment the new set came on. I always record these as soon as the set goes live to get these videos out to you as soon as possible. So, my very first video of every new set, there's usually a little bit of technical hiccups as everybody's going to experience while playing the set today. Because the servers are certainly going to be overloaded with players excited to play with the new cards. So, round 4, although I guess technically round 3. We have the Winterhorn Blessing with no early game creatures for it, but it's still decent later in the game, and I do really like the Shadow Beast sighting and the Consider here. Some solid stuff. Happy to see it. Let's toss that land into the graveyard. Draw another card. Grafted Identity is the draw. Very nice. We do want to get something that makes some decayed tokens, though, because right now we do not have anything we want to sacrifice to a Grafted Identity. We have a single creature, and it's a 4/4. Much bigger than we'd ideally be sacrificing. So Morbid Opportunist. Whenever one of our other creatures die, draw a card. Only triggers once each turn. Really good card. Ooh, yeah, that's a spicy ability. And that is like commander-worthy playable there. Because it's not just when one of their creatures dies, it's whenever one or more other creatures, period, dies. That's incredibly good with the decayed zombie tokens. That makes very, very good use of them. Because there are so many cards that randomly make the decayed zombie tokens because they're not that great. Because they're not like that powerful individually. So I think we discard these two because we can flash them back later when we want them, and we don't even want them right now. Yeah, no, that just makes every card with Decayed much better, and even if you aren't going for like a Decayed-themed deck, that just seems like a powerful ability in the first place. So I quite like the Morbid Opportunist. So we did draw Feral Abomination to get a 2/2 out to use Grafted Identity with. Quite nice here. Could also just play a 4/4 for now. Have good blocks ready. I don't know if I want a Grafted Identity to steal Morbid Opportunist because it would just be a 2/4, but I feel like this card's going to draw them so many cards, it's probably worth doing so. So I'm going to cast Falcon Abomination here. And I guess I could kill the Morbid Opportunist instead with Eaten Alive. So either kill it or steal it. Kind of down for just killing it here. They will draw a card because I'm sacrificing a creature to do so, but at least now they're not drawing like 50 cards over time. I would need double black if I wanted to do that without sacrificing a card, so we were unlikely to hit that, so I'm pretty fine with just sacrificing the Decayed Zombie to do that here. And like we have a little bit of Decayed going on to combo with that card, like if we had Grafted Identity to steal it, but it's pretty much just like 2 or 3 cards, and we were going to be using our zombie to steal it, so it's like we've already used one of our Decayed Zombies, sacrificing to Grafted Identity, so we weren't anywhere near as likely as our opponent would be, I think, to draw a bunch of cards off of the Morbid Opportunist. So I guess they just pass here, so we'll just slam on in, cast the Shadow Beast sighting, I guess. Nebelgast Intruder wins the fight here. Nice flash flyer. Pretty good deal for our opponent there. By shutting off our flyer's power, they got to kill it without losing a creature. Revenge the Drowned, also an excellent deal against our deck. Very good against tokens. Just permanently kill the token and get a Decayed Zombie there. Surprised with the attack from the Decayed Zombie. But I suppose they must just not have a lot of ways to use those zombies to like sacrifice or draw cards, because they chose to just get 2 damage out of it rather than any other effect there. I think I want to just play a Shadow Beast sighting, but I could Rebirth and get the flyer back. Doesn't seem awesome to me. Let's just get a 4/4 back. And we'll keep taking 2 a turn from this flyer. There we go. There's our big flyer. They're probably going to dissipate it, though. Go to combat here, see if we get them to cast an instant speed removal spell like another Revenge of the Drowned here. And now we're hoping for the best because we don't have another good play this turn. If they dissipate, I'm going to die on the inside, because if they do any counterspell that doesn't exile it, we can bring it back with Diregraph Rebirth. No counterspell at all here. Alright, pretty good. Oh, I definitely like throwing the Castaway in the grave, then we get a 3/4 flyer back here. Seems awesome, just skip having the 1/3 die. Phantom Carriage, really good with that Covetous Castaway. We could have also put our green ramp spell here. That way, if they kill our Root Coil Creeper, we still have access to black mana. That could be worth it, because we do have that Rebirth we'd like to cast at some point. So we'd be a little worried if they get rid of the Root Coil Creeper. Alright, cool. So they just lock down the 4/4 Beast with an enchantment here. That's fine. Attack with a flyer, cast another flyer seems good as anything to me. And now we have a great card to sacrifice to Grafted Identity later. Currently, they don't have any creatures good enough for me to want to do that, I think. I think right now I'm cool just attacking and playing more stuff. Are any of these cards good enough to shuffle back? Oh yeah, Eaten Alive definitely is. I don't want to shuffle back the Flashbackers, because they're basically in my hand right now. Falcon Abomination's pretty decent. And Consider only costs 1 mana, and it lets us scry and draw, so Consider would be worth it as well at any point in the game. So that seems all good to me. Alright, No Way Out discards our Grafted Identity. And a Bird Admirer, a 1/4 reach is the play. Another land for us. We can shut down their 1 flying blocker and hit them for 8. Seems quite good to me. Could even use Root Coil Creeper to get it back in our hand if we need to do it again. So we kill the Burdenmire here or deal 8 to them. We deal 8, alright. We can use Root Coil Creeper's ability at instant speed too, which is awesome. Is there anything to rebirth? No, there's nothing to rebirth in our grave. That's true. I shouldn't have shuffled back our flyer, because it was like a rebirth target if we ever wanted to cast Diagraph Rebirth. Earlier on. Sludge Monster. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, put a slime counter on a creature, loses all abilities, and becomes a base 2/2. Alright. Seems fine to me. We still have one flyer. If they don't kill Ghostly Castigator here, then we can return our tapping spell and use that to kill them here. So I'm going to go for it. Return the tapper spell. Tap down their one thing that can block flyers. Hit them for well over lethal in the sky. Tap that down. Tap that down. And they scoop them up. The flyer gets in for 4. This on the ground makes them chump with a 2/4. That's why we put the counters on the ground creature. The flyer was already enough damage to kill them, so no reason to put the counters there. Really excellent stuff from the Root Coil Creeper that game. Fixing our mana for a lot of the game there, and then being able to recast the tapping spell to close out the game, especially when you're bringing back a flashback spell, meaning you get to recast it twice. That's just such a solid bit of value from the Root Coil Creeper. Very nice card. Of course, the Chariot was great as well, the 4/4 flying blue creature that threw the other flyer into our graveyard so that we get to curve out with more flyers. That was excellent. Just all in all, a great showing from our deck that game. Ooh. The hand's mono blue, but it's got the strongest card in our whole deck in it. So I will deal with that. We'll throw that green card into our graveyard. We don't want more green cards, we want green sources. Silver Bolt starts things for our opponent. A piece of removal they can sacrifice to deal 3 to a creature or destroy a werewolf entirely. Very flavorful piece of removal, and a decent piece of removal as well since it fits into any deck to kill smaller creatures. Definitely never a card you're super excited about, but a card that can always slot into your deck if you need it. Your opponent's on white, blue, and red here with Deserted Beach as the play. Well, we can grab the second green mana as soon as we hit the first one by casting Path to the Festival to search for another forest from our library. Alright, sure, they'll draw some cards from that over time, but that's fine. We just need to focus on surviving here. We can let them do whatever little card drawing synergies they have if it means we save our removal to kill a big creature. Again, I could bounce like a 2/2 here, but preferably we're doing that on something bigger that gives us more time. Like that. I think I will exile that, because if that comes back from the grave with Disturb, it's going to be a 3/4 flyer. Just a really big deal. I guess it's a 1/3 for now, and I could just focus on not killing it, but as soon as I get a Hunt Master out, it's definitely going to end up chump blocking that. Yeah, we have to cast something here. Let's go ahead and just dissipate that, I guess. There's the first green source, so we get to play this. Path to the Festival grabs our second green source, and then we're ready to cast Hunt Master next turn. Is that better than surprise blocking with a 3/3 flyer here? I think it is, because if I don't, then it switches to night here, because they'll have cast nothing this turn. So if it switches to night, they're going to have a 3/3 attacking in, and then a surprise 3/3 flyer is not good. I mean, I could still play it and kill the 2/1 here, which is okay. Nah, because they have Silverbolt, if they hold up the Silverbolt mana before they go to combat, then it's just going to be disastrous if I try to play Stormrider Spirits. Let's just get our green source. I guess, speaking of the Silverbolt, it's a good thing I brought it up, because now I need to remember that we actually do have to deal with the Silverbolt before we play Tovolar's Huntmaster. Because if I play Huntmaster with that Silverbolt still on the board, they do get to kill it. Even on the front half, it's technically still a werewolf when it's not nighttime. So Huntmaster does just get shot down by the Silverbolt. So guess we gotta focus on the other plays then. And in that case, I probably should have just cast the Stormrider Spirit here. So what is this? If it's neither day or night, it becomes day. Whenever it flips between night and day, they draw a card. So if I don't cast a spell this turn, they're drawing a card. I have 7 mana to play around with. 2 mana for Winterhorn Blessing, 5 for Stormrider Spirit. I do really want to play Stormrider Spirit, so I guess I'm Winterhorn Blessing without putting a counter on a creature, just to slow that down and keep it from flipping to night so they don't draw a card plus hit me for 3 damage instead of 2. What is this going on pre-combat here? If they do some nonsense pre-combat, that means that Stormrider Spirit does get to kill something in combat before it dies to a Silverbolt, which is very good. Nope. There's the 3rd mana. They have 3 mana up to use Silverbolt again. So now I flash in Stormrider Spirit. They shoot it with Silverbolt, but now Tovolar's Huntmaster is free to come in next turn. So we flash in for the block here. They're like, ooh, I have an onboard trick, but I knew that the whole time. We're just getting out of the way for our better play. And here it is. The Huntmaster is down a 6/6 and 2 2/2s. Even if they kill the 6/6, we've got 2 2s left behind to trade with their 2 2s and 2 1s on attacks. Although I would prefer they don't kill the 6/6. It would be a big bummer to have played around the Silverbolt, and then they just have another removal spell. They are certainly looking at our Tovolar's Huntmaster. They can read it all they want. As long as they don't kill it, I'll be fine. Purifying Dragon. Oh lord, what is this? When it attacks, it deals 1 to a creature. If it's a zombie, it does 2 instead. Okay, so 4/3 flyer does 1 to something every time it attacks. Or 2 if it's a zombie. That's a zombie board, of course. That is not good for us. We have Winterhorn Blessing, Revenge of the Drowned. We have 8 mana here. Definitely like tapping down the dragon, because that thing's scary. But I can also just hold up Revenge of the Drowned. I can just pass turn here and go for instant speed plays. That way the Huntmaster flips. And then just when they go to combat, we deal with the Purifying Dragon. If I attack here, what's the worst that can happen? They block with all 3 of the creatures on the ground. If they block with Purifying Dragon, we can just Revenge of the Drowned it right now. Yeah, we kill their whole board however they block here. If they block with literally everybody, we bounce Revenge of the Drowned and kill everything else. We do lose Huntmaster, but we've cleared their whole board in the process, so I think it's worth the attack here. And then if they don't do a block that would require Revenge of the Drowned, we just pass turn and then use it. I suppose it is a little risky, because if they have like a bunch of removal. There's 1 piece of removal already. Alright, well if they have another piece of removal, we're out. But they don't. They only have flashback spells that draw cards, so they have to draw a cheap removal spell here to win on the spot. Although they are drawing a card right now. Oh, and we get to use this effect at instant speed, so we get to have our wolf token fight one of their cards even if they have removal. Silver Bolts. Double main deck Silver Bolts. Pretty brutal against us. That's very sad, because now they just killed Tovolar. We could put Tovolar on top of our library, but then we're dying to the dragon. We have to bounce their dragon to hand here. Let them do their 1 damage to a creature. Go for the block and trade here, I guess. We could use Tovolar's ability to have our wolf fight another creature instead, but we just want to block trade here. I guess we have enough mana, we should block here and then fight the one we want to kill, and we're stopping the maximum amount of damage that way. Yeah, so we do that. We go fight like that. Yeah, and then the only way we don't take lethal here is by throwing Purifying Dragon back into their deck, which means that Silverbolt gets to just kill the pack leader. Nothing we can do about that. Okay, Loyal Griff to throw the Purifying Dragon back into their hand and still have the 3 mana up to use Silverbolt. Wow. Really disastrous lineup of cards from our opponent. And here they are drawing cards again because they've double spelled. Well, this has been a super sick deck from our opponent. We're getting absolutely crushed here. We're not completely out of it yet. We do have 2 blockers here against their 3 attackers. If they kill one of our blockers, we're done. But if not, then I guess we can like Winterhorn Blessing and tap down their best creature and maybe get another turn. But they've got some great just value over time with this deck as well. They have 2 more Investigate, Soft Secrets of the Key. They have Electric Revelation to draw more cards. Just slam in with everybody here. Take the trades that we can. Go down to 2. There's the Purifying Dragon. Eaten Alive is the draw, but no black mana here. We can grab 1, but it'll be tapped with Path to the Festival, meaning no way to kill the dragon, but we can tap down the dragon, but then we don't have any way to block the Firmament Sage. Means it is just game. So super nice Jeskai value deck from our opponent. There are 2/3 that draws a card every time they flip between day and night. That card was very spicy. Of course, the Silver Bolts being huge in this matchup as well. Killing our flash-in creature and then killing our giant werewolf bomb. Certainly not good for us. So here we are in round 5. We're 2 wins and 2 losses, an average start to the Innistrad format now. But we are seeing a lot of cool decks, getting some experience with a lot of the cards. And, learning a bit as we go. I think Unruly Mob was awesome. It's cool to see that. That blue card that drew a bunch of cards was awesome. Obviously, Tovolard's pack leader is awesome. So we're getting some insights on the format here. We're learning slowly but surely. We shall adapt and overcome. So playing against a blue player with a turn 1 Secrets of the Key. That gives them a clue, and they get 2 more clues when they flash it back for 4 mana. The clues they can sacrifice to draw a card for 2 mana. Candle Grove Witch is their turn 2 play. That card actually has been really good as well when we saw it earlier. Just a 2 mana 2/2 early in the game, but later on when your board gets cluttered and you have 3 creatures out with different powers, it's just a 2/2 flyer, which is quite excellent in those positions where you have that many creatures out. So Malevolent Hermit, they have a creature that can sacrifice to counter one of our spells, and then they can bring it back. That seems bonkers. It is a rare, so it is rare level power. Well, really nice card there. We're going to play a 2/3 to block these 2 power creatures on their board with our 3 toughness. Grab... I have 2 black spells in hand, so I think I am going to grab Evolving Wilds to grab a swamp here. Even though I have 3 double blue cards in hand. The thing is, I have 1 swamp in this deck, and I have like 6 more islands in this deck, so we're much more likely to hit the second island at some point than we are to hit the 1 swamp that we would need for these 2 cards. So I'd rather Evolving Wilds to get that swamp out of the way here, I think. And I guess worst case scenario, we could just Evolving Wilds for an island if I changed my mind here. Which might be the case, but then I don't get to cast Dissipate here. Because, of course, it's an island that comes into play tapped. So our opponent drawing a card off of their clue. Yeah, I guess now that we have a Dawnheart Rejuvenator, that could give us our black mana, and both of our black spells are definitely late game plays. Eaten Alive and Diagraph Rebirth. So we might just be grabbing the island here. Although, like, Grafted Identity is also just a late game play. Or at least a later game play than right now. Yeah, we still have 6 islands in the deck. I'm going to grab the swamp here. Could be wrong, but I think like I'm going to cast Rejuvenator this turn, so it's not even like I'm going to cast any of my double blue cards this turn. So, you know, by the time that I would be casting double blue cards, I'll have Rejuvenator on the board and ready to tap for blue. But at the same time, I'd have Rejuvenator on the board and ready to tap for black, so it really goes either way. I am infinitely more likely to draw blue sources than black sources, though. Not literally, but semantically. So our opponent's just living the value dream now. They're under no pressure, so they get to keep drawing cards with all these clue tokens. We draw into Tovolar's Huntmaster. If we get a bunch of mana there, they still don't have anything big enough to want to steal with Grafted Identity, and they can counter on non-creature spells, so I really do not want to cast that or anything. I don't want to have to discard a card here either. I could try to get Grizzly Ghoul back on the board, I guess, with Diagraph Rebirth, and they might counter it with the Hermit. But they only have 1 attacker here, just a 2/2 that I could just block with a 2/3 anyway. So I might as well I'm casting something here. Because otherwise I'm just going to have to discard a card this turn and then I'll just discard the Rebirth, so we might as well try to cast it instead of just discarding it. The biggest reason to choose to just discard it instead of trying to cast it would be if I want to hold up these Dissipates. I do have double Dissipate. But this way we got rid of their counterspell on board, which means that Grafted Identity is much more likely to resolve later. So that's pretty nice. And then they just turn that into a 2/2 flyer. That's fine. We've got 4/4 flyers coming up eventually with our Phantom Carriage. There's their own Phantom Carriage, very nice card. I would like to eat that alive at some point. Not right now, though. I don't have anything I want to sacrifice. We've got the mana for Huntmaster while they're tapped out. That could be interesting. Good grafted identity, the Phantom Carriage, I guess. Have a 5/5 flyer on the board. Sacrifice the Eccentric Farmer to do it. I could also just Huntmaster first, then I have 2/2 Wolves to sacrifice if I want to, or of course Revenge of the Drowned would be the most sacrificial fodder, just being a 2/2 Decayed Zombie. Definitely the easiest thing in the world to sacrifice. Oh. I do like stealing it while it's untapped. But I also don't like sacrificing like a farmer to do it. I'm gonna go Huntmaster while they're tapped out. I'm not sure. We have like so many incredibly powerful options to play here that it's difficult to choose. So take 6 in the sky. Let's see what they've got here. They've got Benevolent Geist in the sky coming out. 4 more mana to play around with. Alright, nothing there. So now is when the grafted identity is super solid. Just sacrificing a wolf token. We do have Eaten Alive mana after this as well, if we need to use that. Okay, it actually happened. I wasn't expecting that. They have 4 power to block with here. We could send in Huntmaster pretty easily. We have a 2/2 to block their 2/2. We could even send in... We could send in everything that we want to. Just go like this, I guess. I do want to hold like 1 blocker back so we can block as much damage as possible. Block their 1 ground creature here. Destroy a creature with toughness 4 or greater. They choose to kill their own flyer, which means they're probably getting it back somehow at some point. Very interesting. That or they're just really trying to outrace us with flyers here. They lock the Huntmaster in the cemetery. Still sacrifice it for value, or put it back on top of our library with Revenge of the Drowned. But we need to worry about surviving through all these flying hits. And if we sacrifice it for value, we can bring it back with Diregraph Rebirth later, so it's probably going to be the plan. Sacrifice it in Eaten Alive. And at some point here. But first I think I want to play Phantom Carriage so that we have blockers against their flyers. Opponent has drawn another card off the clue. And a Bait Hook Angler, a 2/1 that comes back as a 1/2 flyer. Some more flying nonsense. Alright, here's a 4/4 flyer to block their 2/2 flyers, and then we'll throw our 3/4 flyer into the graveyard to cast later. And I do want to hold back the ground blockers again. We're at 9 life, they're at 10. Things are getting really spicy in this race. Ooh. Mythic, rare, crazy, everything's uncounterable thing. They can recast stuff from their grave. Every instant sorcerer in their grave has flashbacks. They just get to use their removal again. Well, that was brutal. Even if we kill this card, it accomplished its goal. It killed our defense against the flyers. Yeah, that was absolutely destructive. That's quite possible to just win our opponent the game here. That swing in value. Well, there's a Winterhorn Blessing. Can really slow them down. We can tap 2 of their things right now and hit them for 6. That's not nothing at all. That's like potentially massive. Costs 5 mana to do it. So that'd be all of our mana. Is there any way to gain life here? I mean, I guess 1 mana for Eaten Alive is also an option. We could do 1 mana for Eaten Alive, hold up Revenge the Drowned. Just take 2 on attacks. And then try to get the kill out of nowhere with Winterhorn Blessing next turn. I kind of like that. These can't block those anyway, so we may as well attack them with these. I suppose if they have the counterspell here, we just lose. Well, I feel like if they had the counterspell, they'd probably play it by now. So we'll see what they do have here. All right. We do go to 1. Whoa, 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 whoa. What is this? Return 2 creatures with mana value 2 or less from your grave to the battlefield? No way. No way are you just curving out 4 creatures this turn with that. Oh. That's absolutely disgusting. Yeah, our hope there was that they could just like disturb 2 creatures there, and they were gonna be like, I have like three blockers, so I'm super safe. If they disturbed one, cast a Candlegrove Witch, disturbed the other, like that would have been the reasonable play to expect there. They get like 3 blockers, we could still win because we tap down 2 of them, get some counters. They get 4. I guess we could only win if they had only 2 blockers anyway. Because we'd have to shut them all down with Winterhorn Blessing. We definitely can't win now. We certainly can't survive an attack next turn, and we certainly can't kill them this turn. I guess they only have 2 powers for Coven here. So this doesn't actually have flying, so if we shut down the 2 flyers, then this zombie can't block. So even if we shut down the 2 flyers, they just attack with 3 creatures on the ground, one of them gets in. Yeah, because the zombie can't block. So there's no path that leads to survival here, I think. Maybe they'll think that we have a 1 mana life gain spell and they won't attack. Are they oopsing me because they thought I didn't mean to put it on the decayed one? I did mean to put it on my only creature that couldn't block anyway, because I need every blocker I can get. That was a rough one. I think we would have got there if they didn't have the Sigardian Saber. And that's going to end it out too. 2 wins and 3 losses there. I think the deck was pretty sweet in general. Definitely a bit slow. I think the biggest issue with this deck that I probably should have made a little more consideration for is that our curve is not very good. Like, we do not have a lot of early game plays, so other decks can get out a lot more quickly, more aggressively than us, which can be a problem. Quite slow and dirtily at the start of the games, but a lot of our flashbacking spells are pretty good there. I probably should have grabbed the blue mana for the dissipates in that game, rather than the black mana for the black spells, because we didn't cast those till late game anyway. Maybe actually casting some dissipates early game would have done something, because they did end up just sitting in our hand, never getting cast, because we were always in a position where we needed to get more blockers out, get something on the board to help us survive. But yeah, don't think I played this as ideally as possible, but I do think that the deck itself is quite solid, and it was pretty fun to play around with. Definitely just did not pilot it to victory here, but 2 and 3, still a pretty average run, not the worst in the world. And we got some sweet cards for the collection. Tovolar's Huntmaster definitely being the card of the day. That was super awesome. So 2 and 3 for the first Innistrad Midnight Hunt event, but I will be playing one of these every single day for quite a while coming up here. I've taken some time off work to record a lot of videos for you all, so expect daily Magic Arena Innistrad Midnight Hunt limited events. I will be getting to the drafts as soon as possible, but if you want to see me draft right now, you can check out the Twitch channel in the description below, where I'll be doing plenty of practice drafts of the set before I hop in full force into the YouTube drafts. I want to get a decent grasp on the format before I try and give you any tips and tricks there. So anyways, thank you all very much for watching, as always, and I'll see you again for some more Magic Arena very soon.